So once again, welcome to the Unshakeable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and lots of gratitude that we welcome Olis S, who's come to share on the topic of fear, the evil and corroding thread for up to about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for the Q&A portion of the meeting. With that, Olis, it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Hi, family. My name is Olis, and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to begin, as I often do, with appreciation. Young, thank you for your service to Alcoholics Anonymous, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for our ongoing connection through the pandemic. I need to come to the other side of the pond and just hang out with you. Isaac, thank you for your service, and for anybody else that's making this meeting happen, really, thank you. Meetings take a lot of work, right? Timothy and Danny, and meetings take a lot of work, and Michael, and thank you. My sobriety date is May 21st, 1987. And so I've been here a long time. And there's some people I can see in the Hollywood squares. You wasn't born then. I know. And let me say, I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous, right, to stay. I didn't come because I wanted to be clean and sober. I came because I was on fire. My soul was on fire. I was in a kind of desperation that made recovery look good. Do you know how desperate you got to be for recovery to look good? Whoo, you got to be whooped. This is like a fit of desperation that I came here. And I stayed despite myself for the first little while. And I want to just say that, recently 2 people sent me, I met and they were like, oh my God, you did this talk and the talk was so wonderful. And I was like, what talk? And they sent me the link to this talk that I did on A New and Wonderful World. And I think that's attractive to people, right? Because I always talk about not, I don't have a long, I got, drunkalog, but I talk a lot about how to get to joy and freedom, because I want people to know it's not mysterious. It's not mystical. It is democratically equally available to all of us if we're willing to do the work. And I want to just, for the record, tell you that my life is extraordinary. My life is it's unbelievable how good my life is. But I picked talking about fear because I feel like we don't talk about that enough. And I feel like it's this hidden thing underneath other stuff. And until I begin to have a command of the tools, I don't even know that fear is running my life. I don't even, what it looks like? Let me give you a comparison. For me, I got thirsty, looked like I changed my mind to my new friends. If you stop drinking and using, and then you change your mind and drink and use again, that's the disease. It didn't look like, for me, my first step, jumping in and out of the back of cars. That's not how it looked for me. And it could, if I mess around, it could. It looked like I changed my mind. Oh, people are coming over. Oh, I'm going out with friends. Oh, it's free. Oh, that's what it looked like. But really what it was my first step problem. And I want to be clear about what that is. I'm bodily different than my fellows, and I put one in and I don't know what's going to happen. It's probably going to be terrible. Every now and then it's not bad. I make it home. I have on the same shoes. I know where to cut, every now and then. But usually it's a mess. Now, let me tell you what a mess looks like for me. It's not necessarily waking up to somebody, because I'm not gifted with blacking out. I remember it all. It looks like I cussed everybody out. I talked about you and your mother and the horse y'all were. It's just, for me. I put one in and I don't know what it's going to look like because I'm bodily different. The second part of my first step problem, which I have to understand my first step problem to understand the things I'm going to share about fear. The second part is the voice in my head. I think the voice is me. I think I'm having great ideas, which is why my favorite chapter in the book, don't be mad at me, it's not We Agnostics. My favorite chapter in the book is more about alcoholism. And it's all about that second part of the first step, that voice in my head. See if this sounds familiar. I haven't had a drink and I haven't used in a long time. I made too big a deal of it. I could probably do it safely. That's a lie. Here's the other one. I can do some of the work and get all the benefits. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? Okay, let me help you. You know, CA has its own, write the stories, but CA uses the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there is, at least in the older editions, the logo. And the logo is a circle, and the circle has a triangle inside of it. And it has three sides, and it represents the recovery process, right? Unity, service, recovery. If I'm doing some of the work, I'm just coming to meetings. I might actually be hosting. I might put some things in the chat. I might put $1 or $2 in a basket, but I'm not working all three sides. So all three sides means I'm in unity. I have a home group. I have a commitment at that home group. I show up with cookies. I'm helpful. Service. I'm sponsoring someone. I'm in general service. I am in service to the structure, not just to me and the people in my group. Recovery. I'm working all of the steps. When? All of the time. That's what it means when it says practice the principles in all of my affairs. That's what recovery is. But I get here and I just want to do some of the work. I'm a good member. I come to and I want all the benefits. I want joy. I want freedom. I want to stand in the sunlight of the spirit. But I don't want to be bothered. You know, Lynette, who's on, we talk on Tuesday, and Lynette admonished me this morning. She's my sponsee, but you know, the people who've been sober for a while will call you and admonish you. And she was like, I want to give, this is because sponsors do this. I want to give you something for your consideration. That's not what that means. That means, damn it. Okay. So one of the things I say, and the people here who know me know this, my favorite number of sponsees, Tony, what's my favorite number of sponsees? 0. Everybody know that. Young know it all. Throw it up, right? And Lynette is like, that's scaring off the people. That's the point. But okay, sorry. So I have to be willing to work all the steps all the time. All the steps all the time. Inventory, right? The name of this meeting, Unshakeable Foundation, let's get clear. In the 12 and 12 on page 98, there's a direct linkage among self-examination, number 1, 2, meditation, 3, prayer. Self-examination. For me, unceasing, unsparing self-examination, which is where fear comes in. Meditation, contemplation, that's what it meant. Contemplation. I'm considering things, right? Not just the voice in my head. I'm pondering things. I'm going to listen to ponder, consider what Lynette said. Is there something bad that comes out of scaring the people off? Apparently not, because every time I talk, I ask the people not to book me. And then what do? They call me. I know. I love y'all. And prayer, like reaching out to the power. Reaching out to the power. What does it do? It creates an unshakable foundation. When logically related and interwoven. And I want to just, for the new people, when I got here, anything shook my foundation. I come to the meeting and you don't speak. The people I walk into work and they're laughing. I don't know what they're laughing about. I think like everything shook my foundation because of fear. But I'm going to get to that. And so I have to be willing to examine the voice in my head, the second part of my first step problem. You know, the two other examples the chapter more about alcoholism offers is it offers the jaywalker. And what does the jaywalker think? It's going to be different this time. Didn't you think that? I switched from Scott to wine. If I just drank Beaujolais, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to just do drugs. It's crazy. Crazy. But that's what I think the jaywalker thinks. It's going to be different. I'm not going to skip out in front of the trolley. I'm going to skip out in front of the milk truck. I'm still in traffic. But the third part of my first step problem, right? Which is what brought me to fear. What is it? It's the delusion that I'm disconnected from the source of all things. I'm disconnected from the power. Now, this is not factual. This is my opinion. Whatever, right? Whatever. I noticed, and I've been with many people, unfortunately, where they've left their body. Like the angel of death. I don't know, God, what you got going on, but I don't know. I'm in a relationship with people and I'm with them when they die. When the breath leaves, the soul leaves. When the breath leaves, the soul leaves. I think they're connected. Not a scientist. That's what I think. So if they're connected, then that means that my soul and my breath are in my body. My soul is the thing that connects me to God, to the power, whatever you believe that is. So that every breath I take is evidence that I'm connected to the power, to the source of all things. And then my third part of my first step problem is the delusion that I need to go someplace else and find God. Like maybe it's with the Tibetan monks. God's inside. God's inside. The power's in me and in you. Which brings me to my topic. I looked it up. Fear appears 66 times between the big book and the 12 and 12. 32 times in the big book and then 34 times in the 12 and 12. Just over and over and over and over. On page 8, you know what Bill said? Fear sobered me for a bit. Fear sobered me for a bit. The thing is that fear isn't the power. Fear is an experience I have that blocks me from the power. Do y'all know Tyler? I love Tyler. Tyler Sierra San Diego. Tyler says, fear is a lie from the pit of hell. That's right. Fear is a lie from the pit of hell. But not all fear is bad fear, right? My fear of being robbed might keep me, like I'm born and raised in New York. I live in Oakland, California, the town, grimy, right? I love it. And I was talking to a woman about going to Guatemala and I was like, is it safe? And she cranked her neck at me. She was like, you live in Oakland. You from New York, right? What I'm scared of. I know how to move in the world. Not all fear is bad. Like I should, I go to Never Too Early. Shout out to the White brothers. And we're in the fourth step and we're talking about the fear inventory. And I was compelled to share that fear will make you make decisions that drag you. People are afraid to be alone and then they're in these relationships that are abusive, right? Fear can make you injure yourself. But some fear is good. I should be afraid of, you know what I mean? If I should meet a pimp, I should be afraid to get into a relationship. That is not a good decision, right? Not all fear is bad fear. So I want to talk about the fear that's the evil and corroding thread. The fear that my life is shot through. And I want to make sure that I'm staying close to the literature so that you don't think this is all my, machinations. In the book, particularly in how it works, where we have the fear inventory, it talks a lot about fear. But you'll notice before we get to the fear inventory, because there are 3 inventories, the resentment inventory, the fear inventory, and the sexual misconduct inventory, right? But you'll notice in the resentment inventory, fear is in 2 different places. When I'm asked in the 3rd column to talk about how I was affected by the resentment, my husband cheated. his name's in the first column. He cheated is in the second column. I get to the third column and what the literature asked me to do. And I'm not talking like school teacher, you need to know this. I'm talking about how you can begin to find the thing that is creating misery in your life. Fear is creating misery in my life if I'm not careful. And the principles and the tools help me find it and see it so that I can take it to the power. Because on my own, I don't have no power. My power is through the power, right? When the God that is inside of me, right, my soul, connects to the creator, the source of all things, power begins to flow into me. But fear can block me from that power. And so for all 7 parts of myself, right, my self-esteem, my pride, my ambition, my security, my personal relationships, right, my sex relationships, my pocketbook, I'm asked, how did this resentment affect me? And then I'm asked, bracketed alongside, what's the fear? Pro tip. The fear is always the opposite of how I got impacted. Example. I'm a good wife. My husband should be loyal. What is my fear? I'm not a good wife and he ain't gonna be loyal. Right? And then I can begin to just see what's the fear. Now, in this stage of my development, if I'm new, I don't yet understand that the fear is driving it, but I just am writing it down. I'm just identifying it. Oh no, it doesn't stop. Then I get to the 4th column in the resentment inventory. And what does it ask me? It says, well, what was my outside behavior? What's the selfish stuff I did? What was the attitude that justified that? What was the delusion, the story that I was telling myself that justified the attitude, that justified the behavior? And then it asked me again, what's the fear? What is the fear that made you tell yourself that story, that justified that attitude, that justified that behavior that you know ain't right? Oh my God, what? Why? So, sorry. You leave each resentment sheet with 8 fears. Here's the other funny thing. When I got here, I didn't think I was afraid of anything. You know, I'm born and raised in New York. I had my first drink at 4. I'm drinking scotch at 8. I'm in the bars in New York City at 13. Bars in New York close at 4. Whoop, whoop. Get it in. And, you know, I'm going out at midnight. 11 is like an 8th grader. And I'm closing the bars down and going to the after hour spots, right? And when you grow up like that, for me, I developed this bravado, this exterior thing where I'll punch you in the throat. I still have that. Deep inside, I'm a little flower. I'm a little delicate flower inside. But my life created this outer shell where you don't show fear. Never let them see you sweat. The best defense is a good offense, right? And that blocked me when I got here from even admitting that I had fear, because I equated fear with weakness. But here's the thing. Me denying is here only pushes it further down and makes it harder for me to see how it's running my life. In the book, it says, maybe 68, I don't know, that our life is run by 100 forms of fear. It says other things, self-delusion, self-pity, right? But it starts with fear. And I wanted to talk about fear. And again, Young, thank you for believing that I have something to say, something worth hearing. And I hope that I pray that this has value for people. That I want to talk about the happy things. How do I get to joy? How do I get to freedom? Woohoo! But I want to be clear. I get there by doing some uncomfortable work. And a big part for me of the uncomfortable work is beginning to face the delusion that I'm not afraid of nothing. And then once I face that, beginning to look at things, to understand what really is underneath my decisions. I'm going to say something that'll sound like a non sequitur, just here it is. So when I got here in 1987, I know, that was a long time ago. But when I got here, it was like, I think, like the boom of like self-help. There was all kind of self-help books. And in one of the books, this woman wrote this book about sexual trauma. And she talked about, which sort of blew my mind, how she had a fixation on red shoes. I'm sorry, I don't mean to trigger nobody. She had a fixation on red shoes. She had red sandals, she had red boots, she had red pumps, she had all the red shoes. And that as she did the work, is this true? I don't know. It's just what she wrote in the book. That what she realized was as a little girl that something bad had happened to her and there was some blood on her shoes. Again, sorry about any triggers. And it gave her this fixation. Why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Forgive me for saying that. I'm saying it because sometimes things happen to me in my life along the journey. And I might not consciously remember those things. But my behavior tells. My behavior tells on me. And so the inventory process that we have to get free is inventorying our behavior, right? What's my pattern of behavior? Because that pattern of behavior, when I begin to look behind it, may show me a fear that I don't even know is running the show. So, okay, it's a thread that runs throughout my life, right? But why is it corroding? There are lots of things that might run through my life, but why is it corrosive? Well, because it's a lie. Because it's a lie. Let me share this. Either I believe that there's a power that is everything, that makes the sun come up. I've not said this in a while. I'm going to say it. Do you know how amazing gravity is? Do you know that we're on a rock in outer space spinning around, but none of us is falling? It's just amazing. The universe is quantum physics, quantum leaping, quantum intact. Amazing. The universe is amazing. And the power that created the amazing universe that we're in, I don't even understand, which is a little bit ridiculous why we're fighting over what to call the power. But whatever, right? That power, if it's everything, doesn't need me. You see, the sun came up without me. The seasons change without me. It's the power's making it all happen. And if the power is everything, which in we agnostics, it says God is either everything or God is nothing. That's not a question. It's a statement. And then the question is, what's my choice? And if I choose, in desperation, by the way, I get here whooped. I get here broken. I get here desperate. Or, or I'm here for a long time and I'm not really doing none of the work. I'm sort of doing some of the work. Maybe I'm doing one side of the triangle and I'm miserable. I'm showing up. I'm bringing cookies to the meeting, but deep down, man, I'm miserable. Either of those situations. The question is, what do I choose? If I choose that the power is everything, if I choose that, then what am I afraid of? I mean, really, what am I afraid of? People I love say this. I have a 100% survival rate. So for 1 minute, I want you to just take a moment, maybe close your eyes, do whatever you want to do. Think of the thing that you were just frightened of, so afraid, lost sleep, fretted, worried, just sick to your stomach. You survived that, didn't you? You sure did. You survived it. Health diagnosis, we're still here. Drug problem, we're still here. Divorce, we're still here. Financial ruin, we're still here. 100% survival, because the thing that I was afraid of didn't kill me. What am I afraid of? Why am I wasting? Why am I squandering good time worried about something that happened in the past or something that may happen in the future? Why? You know, there's a speaker, Kurt Z. I love Kurt. And Kurt often starts his share by saying, thank God I am no longer suffering from the things that are not happening. Right. Right. That's fear. And what I'm invited to, everybody in a Hollywood square, everybody everywhere has equal access to this thing that I'm talking about. It's really about how much work you're willing to do, how honest you're willing to be, how vulnerable you're willing to be. Here's one of the things that's funny. You ever invite somebody to give them spiritual permission to sponsor you or walk you through something or spiritually guide you, and then they tell you something, you get funky, you be mad at them? Why you on my phone? If you would go goodbye, right? Either I want to see the truth about myself, which is going to be uncomfortable. See, that discomfort is the path to growth. Now, being afraid is uncomfortable too, but I don't grow through that. There's no growth in that. But seeing the truth about myself invites me. And when I can go back to it, we agnostics, I can see the truth in my own life, not what's in a book, not what somebody else told me, that the things in the past that I was sure were going to kill me, were going to get me, were going to ruin my life. It was all over. It was miserable. It was terrible. I'm giving it up. It's over. I survived those things and I'm here. That once I can see that, right, and over and over and over again in my life, I can say, all right, what happens if when the voice in my head brings up a fear, I am willing just for a moment to set it aside, to not invest in it. Here's the thing about the universe. I get what I focus on. If you want to know what you worship, look at how you spend your time and energy. Because I worship the thing that I invest in. I'm worshiping the thing I'm investing in. If I'm spending all my time consuming, there's all those Amazon boxes. If I'm invested in gossiping, the thing that I'm investing my time in is the thing I worship. This thing about fear being corroding. And again, not all fear is bad fear. Some fear is warranted and justified. There's some things I ought to be afraid of, right? I personally am afraid of prop planes. I don't know about you. I'm afraid of prop planes. No, thank you. I don't, there's a little, no, thank you. There's some stuff I'm afraid of. I don't have judgment about it. That's not what I'm talking about, right? If you're afraid of scorpions, good for you, right? But not all fear is bad fear. We're talking about the kind of fear that is woven through our consciousness, through our lives, through our decisions, through our choices, right? Through our being, that are based on something that's not true. I'm unworthy, not true. I'm unlovable, not true. All the people are talking about me, not true. You know what the people are doing? Same thing you're doing, thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. I mean, if they are, give them 5 minutes, they'll move on. I'm talking about the kind of fear that blocks me. From what? From usefulness, from joy, from freedom, from happiness. I'm going to read something out of the book, but I want to share this. Last night I spoke at an in-person meeting. So hard to leave your house, man. So hard. Thank God for online recovery, right? So I left my house 10 o'clock at night and I speak at this meeting, and it's a small kind of low bottom meeting. It's the first place I ever went to a meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous, the Berkeley Fellowship. And had coffee with a fellow afterwards. And the fellow asked me about how I felt about something somebody said to me at a conference that was just this weekend. And the guy made a, inappropriate comment, whatever. But I didn't respond. She was super offended and she was offended and she said she would checked him and she went on and on and on and on about that. And I was sitting there listening to her and I realized that what has happened for me, and I'm offering this to you, is that once I am able to have an ongoing practice of inventory, unshakable foundation, self-examination, meditation, and prayer, once that's a part of my being, some of the things that used to rise to the level of, I need to check you, I need to defend myself, I need to let you know who I am, I need to use my power, they fall away. There's no reason for me to defend myself against something, why? Why would I bother? And it's another kind of freedom. I'm not just free from what I think you think. I'm free from what you tell me you think. I don't care. Because the process, unshakable foundation, leads me to a place where I can stand in a being, in a vibration where me and God are good. And so other things that come by that may or may not be intended to injure me have no meaning. Ooh, that's free. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Ooh, that's free. Ooh, that's free. And that's what I pray for us. That's what I pray for us. And I pray for us that at a time where and I'm 65, I just turned 65. And I don't, in my lifetime, ever recall a lower vibration universe than the one that I'm in. The vibration low, y'all, right? And let me be clear about what I'm talking about and how it relates to fear. Because I believe that the speck of God that's in me, which I call my soul, there's a speck of God in you, your soul, but we all come from the same creator, that we're all linked. We create the web of life. We are a part, I believe, a part of one consciousness. So when a lot of us are thinking bad thoughts, we have a lower vibration. Ooh, we low vibration right now. I don't know how it is over the pond, but it's bad over here, man. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And I then can either respond to that low vibration with fear, because for the people that can't see me, I'm Black. I'm a Black woman. Arguably no more oppressed group, but okay. And I can respond with fear, or I can take it as an opportunity to be a part of the collective vibration that raises the vibration. I can be love. I can be joy. I can be happiness. I can be helpful. I have as much power as everybody else to affect the vibration. What am I doing? Now I can focus on fear and let fear burn my life to the ground. Oh, they're going to get me. Oh, they're going to round me up. Oh, I'm going to get sent to El Salvador. Yeah, I can do all that. Or I can invest the power that I have in raising the vibration. And I can invite you into raising the vibration with me. And the only way that I've learned how to do that is to see how fear is running my life. I'm afraid of people who don't look like me. Why? I'm afraid of people who speak a different language. Why? Why? Oh, I wish this wasn't recorded. I'm going to get put out of Alcoholics Anonymous for this one. Ready? So I go to a conference. Oh, it's lovely. And these are the top shelf AA people. Right? Lovely. And I'm 38 years sober. And I have standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. I sponsor people. I'm sponsored. I'm no big, you can't be famous in an anonymous program, but I got standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not no slouch in the game. And the things I'm telling you is this is my practice. I don't come on and talk about how, I'm floating. And no, I talk about like the truth, because it's a struggle. The work is a struggle. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But when I ask myself at night, just me, how free do I want to be? As free as I can be. Sometimes I take breaks, like, no, I don't see that. I'm not going to do that work right now, right? But I always come back to it. And I'm at this event, and the people are like, oh, are you speaking here? Them people don't know who I am. Those people don't know that I exist. I'd have met them 4 or 5 times. They walk past me like they don't see me. Now, I suspect that if I was in a different carrier, a different shell, they'd see me. I don't need them people to see me. I don't care. Because the kind of joy that I have doesn't require a podium. You know what I mean? If you need me to do that, I'll do that, but I'm happy to not do that. I'm happy to, you know what I mean? And so fear can lead me to be like, oh, they don't see me. Oh, they don't think, oh, I need to let them, no, absolutely not. Because when I'm worried about other people, I'm not present with me and the power. And the only way that I have found to deepen the quality of my existence, not just for me, but for me and other people. When you're in my presence, you feel my vibration, you feel that. Is for me to clear away the things that block me from the sunlight. Now I'm going to say this, y'all not going to like this for sure. The way that the light gets in is that I get broken. I have a financial hardship. I have a health diagnosis. I have a heartbreak. Somebody I love dies. Man, I get broken. And then I survive it. In more ancient cultures, I think it's still practiced, maybe in Iran, maybe in China. I'm not that smart. There's a name for it. I'm not that smart. That when a vessel's broken, you don't discard it. You fill it with gold. There's a name for that. And so the more broken the vessel, the more fillings the vessel has, the more gold the vessel has, the more valuable the vessel is. So I'm not afraid of heartbreak or disappointment or life. I'm not afraid of that. Because when that comes and I'm able to walk through it, the light gets in, and the more light comes in, the more light is available for me to shine. That I can stand in is evidence, is testament that no matter what, joy and freedom, no matter what, the foundation is solid. No matter what, I can be useful. No matter what. So not fear of life on life's terms, but fear of the things that are not true. Here's my final thought. There's a website. Again, I'm going to get put out. And I don't want to hear it's not A, conference approved or CA. I don't want to hear it, right? Because none of the other stuff it's just what it is. So there's this thing called Big Book Awakening, BBA, and there's a website, bbaworks.com. And under it, there's tools, and then there's downloads. And under the downloads, there's step 4 and 5. And under step 4 and 5, there's examples. Some of them right out the book of the resentment inventory, of the fear inventory, and the sex inventory. And under the resentment inventory, it has people, institutions, and principles. People get messed up about principles, right? Go look at the site. One of the principles, right? Fear's a lie from the pit of hell, is that I'm unlovable. And one of those examples is I'm unlovable. And I read it, and I felt like they had taken my personal inventory and put it on the World Wide Web. And all it tells me is that we are more similar than we are different. That the things that we're afraid of that block us from the sunlight of the spirit are almost universal. And they're not true. And I'm wasting the moments that can be amazing worried about some stuff that's not true. And so I wanted to talk about fear because I feel like fear is the primary thing that blocks me from joy. So I think that's my time. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Shelby, would you like to come in with your question?
Hi, I'm Shelby, and I'm an alcoholic. And I just wanted to say thank you to this meeting and to Olis. I had the pleasure of hearing her on another meeting yesterday, and I'm so glad that a mutual friend told me about this meeting today. It's exactly what I needed to hear. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Shelby.
you so much, Shelby. Great to have you with us. Danny, you're up next.
Thank you, Isaac. I'm Danny. I'm an addict, and Olis, thank you so much. Really enjoyed that. Really powerful words. My question is, you were talking about fear, and towards the end, I suppose what came into my mind was, I think it's in the 12 and 12. It says that pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth, and when you were talking about that fear and fear of all these things that we all have, what came into my mind was, when I'm in fear or when I'm in pain, more so, I suppose the two are closely linked. That's when like more willingness comes, and that's for me, that's why it's the touchstone of that spiritual growth, because I'm more willing to turn to God and away from me. So my question, I suppose, is like, what's your experience of that? Why do you think that it takes this fear and this pain to be more willing? Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. I don't have a great answer. I can say that I think we're just not that smart. I mean, honestly, I think we're not that smart. That I think most of us have to have a severe level of discomfort and pain to be willing. The number of people who now exercise because they had some catastrophic health condition, right? They know they were supposed to be exercising. I'm talking about me the whole time. Why we do that? I think that, let me talk about me. I'm not smart enough to do things preemptively. But I also think that fear, right? Pain is like a fuel. Like it propels me forward. When I'm comfortable, because nobody grows in the comfort zone, I just am having a good old time. So I don't think that's a good answer, Danny, but that's what I've got.
Thanks, Danny, for your question. Indy, I'll come to you in just a second. We've got a question in the chat. Olis, do you believe that fear and faith can exist at the same time?
This is an old thing you hear all the time. They can't exist. Absolutely, they can exist at the same time. Absolutely. Okay, let me just say this. You ever go someplace and the food is really good and you eat all the food that you could eat and you're so full you feel like you're going to burst, and then the people come out with dessert and you eat that too? You could be full and want something I don't think it's true. I don't think that being afraid is a sign of a lack of fear. I think that being afraid is an invitation for me to understand what is underneath the fear. That's what I think. And it doesn't mean that I don't have faith. It just means that I've been invited into growth.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Indy, you're up next.
Hi guys, my name is Indy. I'm an alcoholic, and I was saying, can y'all hear me well? Okay, thank you. I've got this propeller fan, like a wind blower to keep me cool. So I was sent to this meeting by my faithful sponsor, and I'm so glad because the way she heard of it was she was in a different meeting and she was like, hey, you need to hear this woman speak. And I'm so glad the way it works because that's what your friends do, like they know what you need to hear. And I'm very nervous at speaking, so please bear with me, guys. Thank you. They know what you need to hear, and they know how you need to hear it. What I am so grateful for is showing up, because everything in this meeting was exactly what I needed to hear, and the dose I needed it, because that's how I speak to myself, was similar ways how Miss Olis was able to describe some things. What really stood out for me, I'm shaking, wow, is I really liked that there was an invitation for me to understand what I'm afraid of. And that fear was like, I can feel the fear and then go around it. But what I was waiting for, I'm going to close my book. I was waiting for this rock bottom moment to happen, like I had seen in the movies. It was like, that's when I was ready. And I curated a couple of those on purpose, and ended up in some and stumbled and played the victim. And I never really understood how trapped I had gotten. And I was so desperate to get better. And I had, I think about 12 rock bottoms was enough, like, to finally get some help. And now that I'm here, every day is like finding out. I've been sober 7 months, and I hope to be for a very long time. Plan to be for a very long time, but I'm finding out that I actually have an issue with talking to people and being vulnerable, because I am like a flower on the inside, and I've been like on the outside, and I come here and it's like I'm finding it out, and it's truthful, and I'm breaking down in the best ways. So thank you guys, because it's like a healthy breaking down, because my cracks are getting filled with gold, and I hope it's gold. But yeah, thank you for your share. Thank you guys for having me and explaining things for me in the best way possible and listening to me. Amen. I'm done.
Thanks, Indy. Good to have you with us. We're here at the same time every week. Be great to see you
Please take my number.
Young, you're up next with your question.
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. Hi, everyone. My name's Young. I'm a very grateful recovered addict. Thank you so much, Olis. Always a pleasure to hear you. And I loved how you mentioned kintsugi, I think it's called, the Japanese art of. Someone sent me that once, and they said, this is like you, Young, when I was new in. You're very broken, which I took offence to, but I was, and I still can be. But through the cracks, that's where the light, and that's what I found. What came to my mind as you were speaking about fear was that bit from the big book. The persistence of the illusion is astonishing. And I was relating that to fear. The persistence of this fear is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. And my question is, what fear today, all this time in, all these years walking this walk, what fear is persistent for you? Thank you, Olis.
What a great question, and an invitation for me to be vulnerable. So the way that I have done fear inventory over the last several years is that I gather up all my fears out of resentment, and I put them all on a sheet in a row, and then I ask myself, going across, right, in a column I put all of them, and I ask myself, going across, why do I have that fear? Why do I have that fear? Why do I have that fear? And it helps me narrow 80 fears, 50 fears, 100 fears down to a couple of fears. And I've done it a few times. And one of my core fears is the fear that it's impossible for someone to love me. Right? I know it's not true. But that's the fear. And so that's the fear that persists. When I go to God in 7, because in 6 I see, like, this is not useful, this is objectionable, and I ask God to remove it, because that fear is a defect. To be clear, that fear is a defect. God removes the things that stands in the way of my usefulness to other people. I'm not being elevated to make me feel good. I'm being elevated to be useful. So apparently that persistent fear that it's impossible for someone to love me is useful to God and the people around me. I'll tell you this. I'm a service warrior. And part of that is, I got to say yes. I got to be good. You know what I mean? So it's complicated. I don't pretend like I've been relieved of all my fears. That's not true. But, and I want to say this because I just feel like I need to admit this. There's a fear of no one loves me. And then there's a fear of I'm going to be with somebody that's going to take advantage of me. I'm by myself, y'all. I'm on that one. Is that right? I don't know. But that's the process for me. I don't identify the fear, and then the fear goes away. I identify the fear, I go to God, and then it may still be there. But I've got to see it in context, right? There are maybe worse fears. There are other things I could be afraid of that would be maybe worse in my life. So I don't judge myself about the fear that I still have. You would think 38 years later I wouldn't have any fear. That's not true. I'm human. So thank you for squeezing that out of me, Young. I love you.
Great question. Thank you. Andrew, you're up next.
Good evening, England, beautiful souls all, and my American cousins south in the warmer weather. Alcoholic Andrew recovered from a hopeless sense of just being alive, let alone alcohol, drugs, and you name it. So I have my question to you, Olis. Thank you very much. Always nice to hear you. I was once asked to describe step 1 years ago, and I gave the analogy of raindrops. The second part of step 1. Nobody counts raindrops, but isn't it amazing how that one drop will coalesce with another raindrop, the second, the third, the fourth, and all of a sudden you got a bit of a stream going on and you got a river going on, and all of a sudden life's unmanageable. Tree roots are being ripped up from banks and everything. My question is, I don't know all my fears, but in step 10 it says we ask God at once to remove it because I cannot identify all the fears outside of in column 3. How much have you used that step 10? We ask God at once.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. It's always good to see you, and happy holidays. You know, all the time. You know, the step 10 is for my new friends. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all combined. That's what step 10 is. It's 4, the inventory. 5, the confession. 6, the admitting it don't work. 7, asking God to remove it. 8, the anybody I've injured. 9, amends. It's all of it together. So all the time, like I'm living there. If only it was that easy. It's not been my experience. Some things like, I have a house and the house is on the market and it's been on the market for a long time and it's lovely and it's unrented. It's unrented. It's unrented. And it can bring up fear of financial insecurity, which shouldn't be confused with financial insecurity. Financial insecurity is real, but I don't have to be afraid of it. And so on that, it works. When that comes up, I'm like, God, please take this. That works. There are other kind of fears that are deeper seated that God has, I can ask that and it doesn't work. And it doesn't mean God doesn't work. God's not a genie in my life. I'm not rubbing the can and if it doesn't work, like, oh, it didn't work. No, I'm either winning or I'm learning. I'm never losing. And so when something doesn't get removed, I accept, okay, there's a lesson in here for me. There's something in here for me. This is making me useful. So sure, I ask God to remove it at once, promptly, right away. Could that please be gone? And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't shake my faith. It allows me to consider what is the value of this thing in my life? How is this making me useful?
Thank you, Andrew, for your question. We have one more in the chat before we move to close the meeting. And the question is, how do you know why you have a certain fear? I have fears that I don't know why I have them when writing inventory in the past.
Such a great question. And so you're not going to like my answer, Melanie. It's none of my business why. Why is a waste of my good time? It don't matter why. It only matters what is. The only thing that's real is the moment. I use the past and I write inventory from the past to help me understand the decisions that I've made, the choices that I've made, the points of views that I have that are the bondage of self, right? That lock me into the bondage of self. But the why is, maybe people treat me bad because of the package that I'm in. None of my business. Like, it's none. I don't know that it's any of my business. And I can't right now recall any value that I've ever gotten from answering why. It's not an inventory. It's not a spiritual principle that I use. And so I would pray for you that you stop caring about why, that you only use the inventory to document the facts, so that the only thing that's true this moment, the future is not real, the past isn't real, the time isn't even real, but the moment that I'm in, the moment that I'm choosing right now, that I can be fully present in that moment. And I'm using the inventory of my past behavior to understand how to move differently in the world so that I can have more usefulness, more joy, more freedom. So I don't know why.